everyone, I'm Arlene Dickinson. Thanks for joining me on my podcast. I have been a longtime partner of TELUS because I value the support they provide to both local businesses and entrepreneurs. Recently, TELUS launched Stand With Owners. It's an initiative that's targeted to support Canadian small businesses during COVID-19 because now more than ever, we could all use a bit of help. And that's why TELUS and I have partnered to provide all of my listeners with an exclusive limited time offer. Right now, if you bring your business to TELUS, you can receive 20% off a mobility plan for business, and you also get the first 3 months free. That's right, free. Visit TELUS.com/reinvention to redeem this offer. Hi everyone. On this week's episode of Reinvention, I speak with Tieghan Gerard. Now, Tieghan is the author of Half-Baked Harvest Cookbooks, a set of cookbooks that you absolutely have to get your hands on and use. I don't know about you, but during this pandemic, I have had to reestablish my relationship with food, how I think about it, how I prepare it, how I share it with a small group of family and friends that we all get to now hang out with a little bit more, and how it makes me feel and in fact reinvents the purpose I feel my body has. So, at the end of the day, I couldn't think of a better topic for us to talk about right now than one that is on everybody's mind all day in and day out, and that is the food we consume. Tune in and listen to Tieghan. She's a culinary superstar who took no culinary training. So Tieghan, I have to tell you, I don't get starstruck very often because I know what it's like to be in the public eye, but I am so excited to talk to you today about Reinvention and to talk to you a little bit about your life and all the things that you've been doing. I mean, I've been reading up on you since you first accepted the coming on the show, and I am so impressed by what you've done by the age that you are and the things that you've accomplished. And having cooked for 4 young kids in my life when I was growing up, I have a little bit of empathy and understanding for what you're going through cooking for your family who lives next door, but also for the world now. So love to hear a little bit about your story and about how Half-Baked Harvest came to be, and maybe just let's start there. I mean, you're just such an amazing human in general. So we'll talk a little bit more about all of those things later on. But why don't we tell us a little bit about what got you here?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I'm not sure I'm an amazing human, but that was such a sweet intro. Thank you. So glad to impress. Yeah. So my really Half-Baked Harvest was just such just a natural evolution kind of for me. As you, I guess, read, I grew up cooking for my family. I'm one of 7 kids, so, the household of 9 essentially, and I started cooking when I was I change the age every time I get on an interview, I swear, but in middle school, between the ages of 13 and 14. And, I really only started cooking just as a sole service to help my dad. So the way that my parents did things was my mom was never much of a cook. We would always have dessert on the table before dinner. She loved to bake, but not cook. So it was really funny. We'd always know it was for dessert or have cookies on the table or whatever, but we were no dinner yet, right? So their kind of deal was I don't even know how they did this, but everybody has their own way of working things out. But my dad made dinner essentially most nights of the week. But he also worked 9 to 5, and then went to the gym after work. So he wouldn't be getting home till 7:38, and dinner was just then dinner was at 9, and eventually I was just kind of this is just chaos, and I'm just going to start helping cook. And from really the second I did that, I kind of never stopped, and I loved it. And I think I really fed off of the reactions of my family. I really got, I really enjoyed being able to, I guess I'm a people pleaser in a little bit of a way, because I really enjoyed being able to please my family so easily through food. And I had fun. It was a creative outlet for me. I had fun experimenting in the kitchen, and it was just a nice thing to do, kind of after school. I never stopped. So as I went through middle school and high school, I continued to cook and just kind of like didn't really think much of it, cooking for my family. And then I always said I wanted to go to school for fashion design. I really have always loved to like make things look very pretty. So I always said I wanted to be a stylist and style clothing. And so I did that. Like I was also doing that. I'm just someone who really likes to use their hands. So visual. Please don't make me read anything. Just send me visuals, everyone.
Except a recipe.
Yeah, even that, like, I can't follow a recipe. don't ask me to follow a recipe either. That's horrible. I never make the same thing twice. That's why, like, testing recipes for me is like making it over and over and doing it the exact same way. I mean, obviously, I have to do it, and I've gotten used to it. But in the beginning, it was interesting. It was an interesting new task. But yeah, so I always said I was going to go to school for styling. I wanted to kind of go into the fashion space. Really loved working with clothes and just really making things pretty, whether it was clothes, though, or even interior design. I was always redecorating my room. Just very visual, very creative, just always using my hands. So I graduated early from high school. I was never a school person. Graduated early from high school with an associate's degree when I was about 18. So I already had 2 years of college done, got accepted to a school out in LA called the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, moved to LA for 3 months, did 3 months in LA and said, no way, I can't do LA, it's not for me. I'm such a small town girl, like want to be close to my family. No, can't do LA. So did like a 360, moved back home. And it was really my mom who encouraged me, to start Half Baked Harvest. She said, why don't you, and at that point, blogs were sort of becoming a thing. They were very new still, but they were definitely sort of becoming a thing. And she's like, why don't you, start a cooking blog? And it had been something that we had, joked about, for probably 3 or 4 years prior, but I'd never ever thought about really doing it too much, and certainly not as a career. So I was like, well, what the heck do I have to lose at this point? And because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I started Half Baked Harvest, and I literally never looked back and have been working on it almost 24/7 every single day then.
Well, it's an amazing story. I mean, there's a couple things I want to ask you about as you go through that journey. First of all, you have 6 siblings. Where do you sit in the order of things?
I'm smack in the middle.
You're right in the middle.
So I have 3 brothers right ahead of me, and then 2 brothers below me, and then a little sister. She was kind of like that last child that came a few years after my younger brother, Red. So I think they're 7 years apart, I want to say.
So this is Asher, who's a regular visitor in your kitchen and is a guest on a lot of your IG stories, right?
Asher's more popular than I am. People love her. And her style. That girl has some serious style and a lot of sass. She's the cutest, so yeah, she's great. Yes, and she's a frequent. She loves to be in front of the camera, so she makes lots of appearances on Instagram. And
she loves chocolate.
Oh yeah, she loves chocolate. Just like any kid, I feel like. If you're a kid and you don't love chocolate, I'm not really sure. So you're a kid.
That's true. But you're a middle child. I mean, all these things you hear about middle children, right? I mean, and you're in a big family. I mean, and you decide, you say you want to go become a fashion designer, and you go to, I love the notion that you bring it all back to working with your hands in general and creating things with your hands. But you were 18 when you went to LA, is that right? 18?
Sorry, just a little bit of coffee.
Yourself.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm just a klutz, and yeah. So I was, I was 18 when I went out to LA. So I was, lots of people do it, but I thought I was definitely a little bit young, maybe to be in LA in a big city on my own. And I also got a full-time job at that same time working at Barbizon, acting, modeling, and talent. I worked the phones. I was not trying to be a model. I worked the phones recruiting people. So that was very interesting.
Well, okay. So 3 months. So I'm kind of thinking in the headspace of an 18-year-old girl who's gone to LA, because most people who go to LA, they're wanting to live this big, huge dream of Hollywood, right? You go to be in fashion design and you take this job recruiting people into a modeling agency. And then 3 months in, I mean, you've announced this to your friends, to your family, I'm going to LA, this is a big move. And then 3 months later, you decide no. Like, tell me what went through your head. Like you had the courage to say 3 months later, this is not for me, I'm going home.
Well, you know what it was? I'm like a very, what is the word? I am blanking on the word, but I try to look at things in a realistic light, and I was very nervous. I was nervous about being in LA, and I was very nervous about starting school because it's called FITM. It's like Fashion Institute of Design. It's a very expensive school, and I was like, once you start, you're indebted. And I was just like, I just don't know if this is a right fit. You know, I'm really glad I went 3 months early because I was able to have that time in LA. It's funny, I love LA now. But, you know, I'm glad that I realized ahead of starting that it was better to realize it then versus starting and having to have paid that tuition and, you know, eat all that money. And I still had to eat some of the money because there were certain fees involved, but I was really hesitant after spending 3 months in the city and kind of just feeling homesick and like, this doesn't feel like a great fit. I'm just not sure about this. So it was hard for sure. And I definitely felt really kind of lost when I came home, and I was like, what do I do? Because I am the type of person that cannot sit still, needs to have like needs to be working, needs to kind of just be feeling like a productive human in the world. So it was hard, but once the crazy thing too, I mean, it was a complete 360, I always say, because, or 180, I don't even know what the term is, whatever. It was just a complete turnaround. But once I started Half Baked Harvest, you know, I really put all my focus and energy into that. And, I never really looked back at that point. But so it was a weird, you know, transition, and I felt not the greatest, but that's kind of when I'm able, you know, I think a lot of times too, in reinventing yourself, like you take your failures, you learn so much more from your failures than you do your successes. So I don't really see failures as failures. I see them as just kind of like stepping stones to just get to be better, essentially, because every time that I've kind of had a setback, I've been able to take that setback and I, you know, really have used it as motivation to kind of move forward. And that's kind of like the person I am. I just, you know, I can't ever be complacent. I just like to like always be moving forward. So when there's something that kind of went wrong, I just say I figure it out and do something else, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I find that really fascinating because I know, like I built my career. I had no formal education in my business. I have no formal education past my grade 12 high school. And you talk to a lot of people who say, well, if you don't have formal education, you find yourself kind of being forced into careers that you probably don't necessarily want because you haven't trained yourself. But you have no formal education in culinary arts, yet you're wildly popular in the food world. So do you think that having no formal education, did it hold you back in any way? I mean, what would you say to, you know, our listeners who have found themselves in the middle of a career change, forced or voluntary, when it comes to having formal education? What's your advice on that? Do you think people have to have it?
Yeah, I have a lot of words on education. I mean, obviously education is great and it is needed for certain things, and I am not, but for me personally, I always had a really hard time in the classroom, and not because I got horrible grades. I mean, I did fine in school. But like I said, I'm such a visual person. I don't want to be sitting all day. I want to be using my hands. I want to be doing things. So like education like that just never really worked for me. And I don't think, no, I absolutely, to answer your question, I don't think it is needed. I think that you can, especially in this day and age, there's so much that you can teach yourself without any kind of form of education. And there's so many careers now that you can be doing that don't require education, that what they really require is real life experience. And I think that to me, a real life experience is so much more valuable than sitting in a classroom. I think, again, a doctor, you need to sit in a classroom probably. But for what I'm doing, I don't think that I needed to sit in a classroom. And I think that not going to culinary school, yes, sometimes I do feel like it is looked down upon on some people because, it's just like a thing. But I personally think that it's actually really helped me excel in my space. I don't really know. There are certain things that there's food rules, that, someone who went to culinary school might kind of have in their head, like, hey, don't put cheese with fish, or I don't even know some of the things. And I just don't think about those things because I was never taught the formal way to cook. I cook the way that I cook, and what works for me and it tastes good and what I've, over time experimented with and found to be really great. So that's how I cook. I really just cook for, taste and visuals and easiness, So, I personally think it's kind of helped me excel. I think it's helped keep my recipes very different from everybody else's recipes, even if it's something like a pasta or a pasta carbonara or whatever it is. There's always something a little bit different that I try to incorporate, and I don't ever let a certain way of cooking, it doesn't get in the way of my creativity. So I think that in that way, it's really helped me kind of excel and be different from what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, I think that is a really important point because a lot of times if you're trained formally in a certain industry or you've worked so long in a certain industry and learned a certain way of things that you're not likely as open or as readily eager to try different things because there are rules that somebody's taught you that you feel that you can't break because somehow they're going against the norm. And so the notion that you can be more creative, I think in particular that's true in a creative industry where your creativity comes from within. And if people are starting to put rules around creativity, you lose the art. It becomes more science than art, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you can definitely see that in my space, when people maybe start to look more at the numbers and things like that. And I have really always tried to just kind of focus on, the creative side of it. And I think that's really helped me grow.
When you think about your family and your mom and dad and kind of how you got started, I first of all, your mom, you must be really grateful that your mom's encouragement kind of took you down this road because I don't know that many moms, as you said, blogs were kind of just new back then, that many moms would have said, hey, why don't you try doing this? Because she clearly saw your talent in it, which is really lovely, that your mom was so supportive.
Yeah, my parents are, they have 7 kids. So I feel like with each kid, they just got a little bit more loosey-goosey. But even before that, my parents have been together, my gosh, I think over 30 years now. Since my mom was 14. So, they got married when my mom was 19. And so they've been together forever is my point. And, they started very young, having kids, made a family very young. And they've just always really, especially my mom, she is very much, don't, fly by the beat of your own drum, or I don't know what the saying is, but whatever. She's just very not traditional. She's not for doing things the traditional way. She's really for kind of, like me, figuring it out, doing what you love and figuring out how to, incorporate that into your life. And she always encouraged, me to really, and all of my siblings, my brothers included, to really kind of do what we love and never a traditional path. She's never been one where she's never been set on. I think, my 3 older brothers maybe got more of a traditional upbringing. And then, like I said, as time went on, things just kind of, so many kids in the house, you just can't, there's just, you just kind of lose the rules a little bit. So it just, she grew into herself, I think, too, in her parenting style. And she's just very one of those people that's adventurous and just kind of like really all about doing the things that you love. But so they never forced that on me. And she saw very early on, that schooling isn't necessarily the path for everyone, even though it's the traditional path. So yeah, I'm definitely very grateful to have parents that are so supportive and that were so supportive. They have 100%, helped me to get to the place where I am today. So I'm very grateful for that.
But you started off with it was really kind of a side project, right? And wasn't going to be, or when did you decide that side project was going to be your full-time job? I mean, was there a conscious decision you made to go all in on the cooking, or was there an event or instance which made you decide to do that? Or how did you transition from, hey, I'm going to write a blog to this is going to be my full-time career?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really say that there was like a certain moment in time where I was like, this is what I'm doing. This is my career, but really within the first 6 months, I would say we had started to kind of see traffic build and, people really responding well to the website. And so when we saw that, I think it just kind of kept the momentum for me going and wanted me to keep creating. And then, we slowly incorporated advertisements onto the website and slowly started seeing an income come in. And, at that point, really within the first year, like I said, I literally worked 24/7 on half-day service and kind of still do today. Not kind of, I kind of still do today. So when we started to see kind of income coming through, it just made sense to keep going with it. Like, it's not like it wasn't a waste of time. It's not like I was just putting all my energy into something that nobody was responding to or wasn't, making, and it was great that it was making money too. So within the first year, we really kind of, and things were different back then, but once we started to see that income coming through the advertisements, I, probably said to myself, like, maybe this is something I should stick with. I don't think I ever said that, like, hey, this is going to be a career, though. It just kind of happened, just slowly fell into place.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. I mean, I feel like, I'm thinking back to, a lot of times I talk to people and they say, I didn't know what I wanted to be until I started doing a bunch of other things to find out what I didn't want to be, and then landed on something I was passionate about. I mean, I think about you got into cooking when you were like 13 or 14, you said. And Rachel Ray, I believe, was one of the sources you got your inspiration from. And now you're featured on her site and her magazine. I mean, does that make you feel, Tieghan, like you've made it? Like, do you ever, at any point in your journey, was meeting goals that you set out a reason to pause and enjoy? Or are you still like totally driven to chase bigger goals? Like, where on the spectrum are you right now?
I am that person that is like, okay, what's next? So I never feel like I've made it. And I don't, it's funny, like hearing you say that, like, that's great. I'm so excited to be on Rachel Ray and featured there. But like, yeah, that doesn't, to me, I'm just like, I always have bigger and better goals and always wanting to be, striving to do new things and create new things and share amazing content with my community and, never settle for anything less than incredible kind of thing. So that is me. And I'm just always kind of looking forward to, what's next and, exciting new things. So it's like, there's never like an ending point really for me. It's kind of just like always stepping stones of building and growth and just trying to be a better version of, Happily Harvest, even myself, as, and serving the community that we've really built, because to me, the community is everything. And my number one goal is creating content that makes them happy and that they are really excited to see every single day.
And that shows, I mean, listen, Rachel Ray's awesome, but you have created a different genre of cooking and sharing and, I mean, even right down to the fact that, I would you are a superstar in your own right, very different from her, and I think it's great that she at such a young age influenced you, but now you've kind of superseded that and you've created this different kind of view of what cooking can be. I mean, I think about the fact you do your own photography. I think I actually read that somewhere the other day on one of your blogs. I think you had mentioned that you were doing your own photography and video and how often it takes you to, how many takes. I think you did a little thing about the different numbers of takes you did to get it right. And I was thinking, wow, like on top of the cooking, you're also that into the detail that you care that much about how it looks. Because I think many people would have passed that off and said, okay, I've done cooking. You guys take all the pretty shots of it. But you're so engaged in the experience of food that you do every detail, which astounds me.
Yeah, well, kind of like I said, for me, I'm such a visual person. So actually creating the food and making it look visually appealing to the eye is almost it's really how I create recipes. I don't think of recipes, I think, in a way that a lot of people do. You know, when I build a recipe, I really build it in my head, and I build it kind of based on like colors and textures. I mean, and certainly flavors, but you know, I've always had in the back of my mind that we eat with our eyes. And if whatever you are presenting someone doesn't look delicious, they're not going to respond to it. Nobody wants to eat a plate of food that doesn't look, that doesn't jump off the screen and say, oh my gosh, that looks incredible. So, it's really been something I've kept in mind all of these years. And I think that creating the photographs and really, and even the videos, it's really, really important. And I do have fun with it. I like to style. I like to make food look delicious. And a lot of times, there are touches that I add to a dish because it needs more color, it needs to look more mouth-watering that, really help with the recipe and make it even better.
Yeah, I mean, I've made numerous of your dishes, and I want you to know I found you because my youngest daughter, she loves cooking, and she was making all these fantastic dishes, and I kept saying, where are you getting these recipes from? Like, where are you finding this? She said, oh my God, Mom, you have to get Half-Baked Harvest, this recipe book, and she talked to me about you, and so I ordered both of the I've ordered the last two recipe books, and I have found your recipes to be easy to follow, but I love the photography and the imagery because it does help you feel like when you're putting something on the plate that you're actually taking a meal and making it a little bit that much more special. And I think about, like back to, kind of the moment of your career as you've expanded it and grown into, the following you have now. I mean, you kind of are reinventing this whole notion of what food should be as it relates to family. And when you think about that in the pandemic, Tieghan, and I mean, you're pretty isolated. I believe you live in a farmhouse, right next to your family, or a converted horse barn.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about your family's close to you. You're there. People are now coming back into their homes because of the pandemic, and they're finding a different view of food and their relationship to food. Tell me how you feel about that. I mean, I think you kind of started that long before the pandemic, but the pandemic has heightened this desire to have food be central to our lives in a meaningful way where we're in touch with the food. How do you feel about that?
I think that food is just food brings people together. So it's weird with this, we've had so much time on our hands. And I think that before the pandemic, people kind of obviously some people love cooking and other people don't, but, they didn't necessarily think they enjoyed cooking or that time in the kitchen or realized how easy it could be, to create, simple dinners, simple meals, or just have fun in the kitchen and be creative. So I'm actually really grateful that this time has kind of forced people to stay home in a way and, make do with what they've got and try to, use their time in a inside their houses. So what else do you do other than clean, rearrange, and cook, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's really cool to see. I think that, food is just, it can be so much fun, and it can be such an amazing way to connect with your kids, your parents, your friends, like, and, whoever you're, I don't know, in your house with, I guess. I know it's weird because social distancing and all that right now, but, I think that it's a really great, food brings people together, and it can be so much fun, and it can be such a great outlet to come home, back in the normal days, come home after work and just like do something with your hands. I think that people forget so much what a great release it can be of stress to just like create something, not sit in front of the TV or scroll your phone, which is the worst, right? So it's really the worst. And I think it's been really nice I think that people have realized like, hey, this is actually like not that hard, and I'm really having fun with this, and it's just, I think they really love to be able to create recipes that maybe even they got out at restaurants or similar to that. Like, hey, I can make this at home. I can maybe even make it a little bit healthier, or I can adjust it even, more so to the flavors that I enjoy. So I think that, I think it's been really nice. I personally really liked seeing everyone be in the kitchen more and to create more. It's been really cool.
Yeah, I know that when I was by the time I was your age, I had 4 children, and we grew up with absolutely no money.
You sound like my mom.
Yeah. I'd like to meet your mom. I think I would like to meet her. So we grew up like we were really poor. We had absolutely nothing, and so I ended up, baking bread every night and like overnight buns, and like that was back in the Good Housekeeping, recipe days. Like it was like the recipe books were really basic, and canned everything and made jams and did all that stuff. And back then I had to do it because we just didn't have any money, right? And so food was, I had to put food on the table for the kids. And so, we were just too broke to do anything like going to a store to get food regularly wasn't on the card. It wasn't in the cards. Now, as I'm older, I actually have gone back because of the pandemic. I started canning again and making things. And I've been flipping through your books thinking, what can I do that's different? I actually made your Korean chicken. I can't think of the word of it. The 25-minute Korean chicken that you've posted the other day with the corn in it. And it was so...
Yeah.
It was so good. And I'm trying new things. And I thought it actually struck me how I've kind of come full circle back to food being central to not just survival, but to but to comfort. And it's an interesting thing that you're in that world. I think but your whole family is really quite talented. I'm just going to do a little bit of a segue here, but you have a younger brother who's an Olympian, correct? A gold medal winning Olympian, right?
Yeah, I do. Red, he, like I said, my parents are very, they're not very different, but they have always encouraged us to really do what we love. And, we're like all very athletic in a weird way. And my brother just, yeah, well, we just all really love to be active and be outside. And like, it's funny, Red and I are actually kind of similar. Like, he's so much worse than I am. Like, he can't sit still. Like, I'm not even joking. He just cannot sit still. And he is so acrobatic and has always just, my mom said, like, my 2 brothers below me, my brother Malachi and Red, like, they could both, like, skate before they could walk and just, like, all these things. So, they've always been, and I think, too, my brothers have such a unique relationship. They grew up, I was the only girl for so long. And so, but everybody's just really, really close. And my brothers are all really, really close, and they still do everything together. And it's just always been a very encouraging environment. And so, yeah, my younger brother, Red, he's a little superstar in his own light. And he is incredible at what he does. He snowboards. And, he went to the Olympics in Korea, and he took the gold medal home.
And he was also the youngest Winter Olympian to win a gold since 1928, right? Like he's
yeah, he came in as the underdog, which he loves to do. He's very good at that. And he came in as the underdog and kind of blew everyone away. And I think he was 18.
Yeah, that's like insane. And then I was reading that the day of his performance, he woke up late, and like it's just actually a typical 18-year-old boy thing to do. So it sounds like
that story, that story is like super exaggerated. I do think
he did
wake up maybe. Yeah, it is, but I do think he did wake up late. But yeah, I mean, he's 20 now, which is so crazy. I can't believe he's 20. But yeah, he was a typical teenager. I think the cool thing about him, and I think that I kind of have this same thing in my head too, like, we never let any of that, like, big stuff get to us. He was always just kind of like, okay, but I'm here to do what I love, and what I love is snowboarding, so that's what I'm going to go out there and do. And it's kind of, he's just never looked at, like, the competition side of it all, and really stayed true to, the belief that, like, this is what I love, and that's why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it for any other reason.
Which I love. I mean, I know because I see Asher on your videos, but do you cook for your brothers still all the time? Like, do you still make meals for them? And are they your worst critics, or your best input to your recipes and to what you're developing?
Yeah, absolutely. They'll tell you anything. So, and definitely so that, yeah, they'll tell you anything. And, we're very close, all of us, and everybody's kind of all over the place, between California, Colorado, even Ohio. So, and then everybody's normally traveling quite a bit. So we're just all over the place, but we do gather a lot and see each other a lot. I'm always cooking for everyone, and they have their favorites, and I'm always trying to get them. There's some picky eaters, so I'm always trying to get them to try new things. But yeah, definitely.
Who cooks for you?
Nobody. I'm like such a control freak that I'm just like, yeah, no, okay, I'll do it.
Thanks, but no.
But yes, I mean, I will say that I love my dad's recipes. He's just always been a very good cook, but just very, very simple. But there's things that, he would make when I was younger that I still love to this day. But, I mean, the boys, they don't cook.
They don't cook. That's not what they do. That's
no.
Funny. That's okay. I guess if I had a sister like you, I wouldn't cook either. I'd be kind of keen. But
yeah, it's kind of just like expected that I'm cooking.
Get tired of it?
Totally fine. It's surprisingly no. I mean, it's just like I still really, really enjoy cooking. And honestly, cooking not for the blog is even, not for cookbooks and not for like work is still really fun, because that's kind of a time when I don't really have to be, what am I putting in this? How much was in this? How can I make this easier? I'm just kind of cooking, So it's still really fun for me.
If you have to think about the future of, I guess, the next few years of what's going on in the world, and as people are gathering around in their kitchens more and doing things, how do you think we're going to reinvent the family meal time? Like, what would you like to see happen as it relates to people thinking differently about how they interact over meals?
I mean, I think that I really hope that, I'm kind of this funny, like, I really always love the idea of that, like, a family dinner, everyone, that, like, picture perfect, like, I feel like a Little House on the Prairie family dinner that nobody has these days. I would love to see that happen more. I think that, like, food has, in the past, been something so much that, people are, like, literally just, okay, how can I get, like, 5 minutes to shove a granola bar down my throat kind of thing, because we are so busy. It's hard, So I really, really hope that this helps people, and you've already seen the change, but I hope it sticks, and I think it will. See people sitting down for more meals, and sitting down and, interacting, cooking with people more, and just kind of like enjoying the process of creating a meal for loved ones or friends, and, kind of taking a step back and away from this world and away from your phone. The whole phone thing, if you can get away from your phone feel like you're so golden. So really kind of taking the time to create more home cooked meals. And that doesn't mean that you need to have 5 hours, every single day to create a dinner. You can definitely get dinner on the table in 30 minutes. And I think that, that's kind of why I'm here. I can really help people to understand that and realize that, hey, like if I have a great pantry stocked or just a few simple ingredients, I can still make dinner, or I can still make an easy lunch and, not do like Uber Eats or something.
As long as you have burrata cheese in your fridge, right?
Right, yeah. Keep a little burrata and you could just, that's all you need, really.
That's all. That and some, did you say basil or basil? Everyone says it differently. I say basil, but everyone says it differently.
I say basil, and that is my favorite. I love basil.
Yeah. See, I know. I watch these things. I always watch how you decorate it all. I think, and I love burrata too. Burrata is one of my favorite. The peaches that are out right now. I mean, see, that's what I think I love about food, and I love about talking to you. I mean, I don't want to. I just think what you've accomplished. I started off saying how impressed I am by you, Tieghan, and I really am. You're a lovely human. Who you are on your Instagram and on your feeds and in your blogs is exactly who you are in this conversation. You're honest and you're direct and you're thoughtful and you're funny and you're smart. And I think you are probably just beginning to realize the potential that you have untapped inside of you. I can't imagine what you're going to do in the next 27 years of your life. It's pretty damn amazing. And I look forward to watching you and kind of just being along for the journey and sharing with you through your recipes, your love and passion for food. Is there anything you want to say to everybody about kind of the notion of reinventing yourself and being more brave around making mistakes and getting through? Is there anything you'd like to share just as we close up here?
Well, thank you for that. You're very, very kind outro there, whatever you want to call it. That was very sweet of you. I have to say that I think that really my parents have a lot to do with that. They've always taught us to, be who we are and be kind. I think that that's like the golden rule in life, like just treat others the way that you would like to be treated. So thank you. But, I think that I wish that people wouldn't be so afraid to fail, even with cooking that, I get so many questions about, being afraid to try something new because they don't want it to turn out bad. But it's like, it's okay if it doesn't come out perfect or if you burn something. I mean, I burn things every single day. Like, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. And I just think that I hope that people can open up their minds a little bit or just open up the way that they're thinking. Failure for me, and I think that this is the case for so many people. I mean, I hear people say this all the time. Failures help you grow. They help you to learn what you like, what you don't like, what you can do better. And, really just taking your failures, and I hate to call them failures because it's just a stepping, part of your life. It's just one day or one, maybe slightly bad move. I don't know, and it doesn't need to be the end of the world. I really hope that people can, my biggest advice is to take that, a failure and use it as fuel. I'm such I guess I'm a little bit competitive in a way. So I'm very, if you get a setback, use that as fuel and figure something else out. I'm all about my number one, my motto, let's just figure it out. Okay, well, if we want to get something done, how can we get it done? Just figure it out. So, get a little creative, and if you want something bad enough, I really think that you can figure it out. And so use those failures, and reinventing yourself is so much fun. If you have the chance to do that, I think you need to just jump in and do it and not look back. So, and I think that too, even with something my brother said to me when we were kids, he was trying to teach me how to do a backflip on the trampoline, and this is my older brother, and he also snowboards, and he's a very also could be a gymnast. He was trying to teach me how to do a backflip, and he's like, you just can't think about it. You just have to do it. So anytime that you overthink anything, and I'm such an overthinker, but anytime that I really I just try to keep telling myself, you got to just do it. If that was your first instinct, just go with it. So, just jump in and do it, and don't hesitate either. Once you make the decision, you got to do it, because when you hesitate, this is like relating back to sports. When you hesitate, you are definitely going to come out of whatever you're doing, not landing on your feet. So I think it's funny, relating back to my brothers, like they are always landing on their feet. That's like the goal, right? So if you hesitate, you're not going to land on your feet. But if you just go in you go in all the way, you're going to land on your feet. If that makes any sense at all.
It makes a ton of sense. I mean, and I think you're wise beyond your years, because it took me a long time to have that type of confidence to just say, you know what, it's okay if I try something and it doesn't work. The love of life is in the trying, not in the always succeeding, but it's in the effort you make to get to the next stage of a succession. Like, how do you succeed? Well, you just keep trying, and you learn with each try. And I don't know. It took me a long time to understand what at a much younger age than I was when I figured that out. And I do think that is part of reinvention. We get so hung up on thinking that reinvention is wholesale. It means like stripping away everything and doing something completely different. But reinvention can be incremental things, like just being kinder, as you said. Like, just try getting up tomorrow and being a little kinder to somebody, and reinvent kind of the way you think about the world, like one step at a time, right?
Yeah, I mean, my mom she would say this. She says this every single day, but just be something nice for someone every day, and you'll be a happier person. So I think that's a hard thing, especially with the pandemic. I think that people can maybe lose sight of that a little bit, because it is a really hard time and there's so much uncertainty. But I think you'd be surprised if you just kind of change your mindset a little bit and just say, hey, I'm going to put a smile on, and maybe I'll buy someone a cup of coffee or whatever.
Yeah. Well, Tieghan, I've really enjoyed the time we spent together. I could have talked to you for a lot longer, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure there's a lot of people that I know you inspire each and every day, and who are going to listen to this and hopefully learn that the joy of life is in the trying. And
thank you so much.
So thank you, and I guess I'll see you on Instagram and
I'm very active on Instagram.
I'm glad you are. You make my Instagram feed that much better. So we'll see you there, and
I'm glad.
We'll talk again soon. But thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. It was great talking with you.
Okay, thanks, Tieghan. Bye for now.
Bye.
Listening to Tieghan, I was really struck by how at a very young age she pivoted her direction. And she did it because she knew what she was doing wasn't right for her. And sometimes isn't that the hardest thing of all, you guys, to be able to admit to ourselves that we're down the path that is not leading to our happiness? I mean, she went to LA for a very short period of time to pursue a different career than she has now, and realized it wasn't for her and came back home. At the end of the day, probably in that moment it would have felt hard, but look where it led her. She got home, she didn't know what she was going to do instead. She wasn't on the path to something different, she was just on a path away from what she had chosen. And then when she got home, her mom said to her to follow her passion and to start writing blogs about food, because that would keep her interested and engaged in something she loved. And that's interesting to me as well, because Tieghan started off liking food and getting into food preparation out of practicality. She wanted to help her dad. She wanted to get food on the table before 10 o'clock. She wanted to help feed the family, a family that was quite big. And so there she was, helping out in the kitchen at a very young age. And that practical need turned into a passion. And that passion turned into her purpose. And her purpose has actually now helped many other people and many other countries to also find purpose and passion in food and food preparation for their families. I love how that has continued on, and how by following her North Star and finding her purpose, Tieghan has actually helped us all be better at ours. Tieghan, thanks so much for sharing your life with us, for your honesty, for your openness, for your integrity. Love your recipes. Please, everybody, buy her books. They're fabulous, as is she. Stay safe and stay human. Thanks so much for listening. This podcast is made possible by the great folks at Venture Communications. Thanks to our engineers, writers, producers, and all the folks who work really hard to bring you these great stories of reinventions each and every week.